Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's podcast, Dual Lens. We are so excited that you're here. Excited for what we're going to talk about tonight. And please make sure you share, you like, you comment. Get ready for tonight. It's going to be a good conversation. And so let's get started because we have a lot to talk about. I do want to ask if you can make sure you let your friends know, you share with, just click the share button. It's free, but it really helps us get this message out. So I'm glad that you're here. So tonight we're going to be talking about something that is going on right now. And our sentiment, our purpose here tonight is have an open conversation about this and not to change your mind, really, just give you information that will help you make better choices and maybe bring an understanding of this subject that we're going to talk about. It's immigration. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And here you go. Welcome to Dual Lens. I'm Maria. I am joined by my co-host Ulises. We always like to start by saying this. We are not expert, even though Ulises thinks he is. We're not politicians and we don't always have the answers. What we do have is perspective, curiosity, and respect for conversation. So tonight we're talking about immigration and the narratives we are seeing on social media, what's real, what's emotional, and what's getting lost in the noise. We also have a special guest joining us tonight. Her name is Julie Rodriguez, and Ulises will introduce her in just a moment. So let's go ahead and go get into it. Thank you.
What's
Ulises.
going what's going on? What's going on, everybody? Thank y'all so much for joining tonight's conversation. It's going to be crucial. It's going to be but it is an important conversation. We see what's going out there, y'all. I don't have to really get into the nuances and the details of because we see it in the news every day. We're dealing with ICE. We're dealing with illegal immigration. You're dealing with the tactics that they are using. Do you agree or do you not agree? We are seeing, from the shooting of Miss Good the other week to the killing of Mr. Pretty, I think that's his name, just the other day. Tragic. It is sad whenever somebody do, when they do get, social media says unalived, but it's something that it is something that I feel like and believe that we should be talking about, especially from those in the church, because we see it on social media. We see it on social media. We see it in the news, one side versus the other side, anti-ICE versus pro-ICE. Is there a common ground? Is there a sense of, hey, I don't have to necessarily agree with how you stand in this conversation, but we can agree to disagree. We can still be cordial. We can still be friends. We can still go out to Chico's Tacos or to McDonald's or Taco Bell, whatever it is that you go to. Can we still do these things without having to block each other on social media, unfriend? We all got stories. We all got stories of because somebody disagrees on where you stand on a certain subject, they will unfriend you like that. No dialogue, no conversation. Me personally, I believe unity is not about having to agree, but unity is about I'm here not to necessarily agree with you, but I'm here to understand where you're coming from. I want to understand why you think the way you think, why you came to that conclusion, why you feel the way that you feel. That's what to me is part of what unity is really all about. So tonight we have an important guest tonight, someone who I know dearly. She worked as a sheriff deputy, in the United States. Not going to tell you where, when, how, why, whatever the case is, because we know how crazy it get here in the world. But she did serve as a deputy, as a sheriff deputy. She's had several years of experience. She reached out a little earlier today when she found out we was having this type of conversation. And I was like, you know what? I like your
Yes.
energy. I
Yes.
like the fact that you have experience in this. Would you mind being a guest? And she was like, without hesitation, she agreed to be on this show. But and before we introduce her, please, y'all, for those who are watching live, make sure you hit that share button for those who are on Facebook. Share, share, share. Let everybody know we're talking about an important conversation. We're dealing with ICE. We're dealing with immigration. We're dealing with the illegals and all the craziness that goes with it. Make sure you hit that heart button. It goes a long way for the algorithm when you hit that love button, and comment, you guys. Do not be afraid to comment. Don't be afraid to really share, how you feel about this conversation. And I just want to really just start off by saying this. It's important that we have mature conversation. Let's keep things cordial. Let's keep things in a mature manner. Let's be calm in this, because this is a sensitive subject. Just because I may feel a certain way doesn't mean that you get to call people names and say certain things, whatever the case is, because at the end of the day, again, unity is really all about understanding one another. So please don't be ugly, because I have no where, how, whatever to block somebody. I will quickly, block the comment and block you from actually watching this stream. So let's be cordial. Let's be cool with it. And again, let's just have a great time in tonight's conversation. So everybody heart and mind, as the church say. Is everybody heart and mind clear?
Yes. We're clear. Clear as mud.
Yes, Lord. She said clear as mud. What's going on, Annette? Hopefully you are doing well this evening. I heard through the grapevine y'all got some snow in El Paso.
We did.
Oh man,
we did. We were shocked. We didn't know what to do. We got some snow and we're like, oh. But by the end of the day, it was gone. It was a lot of emotion, and at the beginning of the morning, it was like a lot. But then by the end of the day, it was all gone. It was good. It was fun. It was fun.
Cool beans.
Not enough to. I don't think not enough to do a snowman, but it was enough to do a snow angel.
Snow angel. Everybody got on the ground.
Yeah, it was. It was sure.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about right there. But listen, without further ado, let's get into the show. So I want y'all to give our special guest, Miss Julie, a nice warm dual lens welcome. What's going on, Julie? How are you?
I'm so excited to have Julie, because I feel like I've met a good friend. Because before the show, we started talking about her experience and what she does. And she recently had a baby, and she was telling us about her love story. And it's somebody that I believe she's going to be a great guest, because she has seen both sides of the story, so to speak, both sides of the situation. She's married to somebody from Mexico, if I can say that. So she has, like I told her, she has skin in the game, and she's seen the law enforcement side, and then the what we would call the personal side of these issues, how we all deal with this. But so I'm excited to hear her great insight. I'm excited to hear what she has to say, what she's going to share with us from experience, from what she's seen. She comes with a lot of knowledge, so she's a smart cookie. So I'm really excited to have you here, Julie. It's her first podcast, so I want to make sure that everybody makes her feel welcome. I want to make sure everybody says hi to Julie. If you're gonna ask questions, be polite, like Lisa was saying. It's her first podcast, hopefully not her last, but we need to make her feel excited and happy to be here. So yeah, we're gonna have a really good conversation tonight.
Yeah, and don't let the innocent face fool you. She can throw some bows, you know.
Only when needed. Only when needed.
Only when needed. Absolutely. So again, you know, as we were saying earlier, you know, when we're talking about ICE, when we're talking about this whole process when it comes to really what I feel like is coming down to really is okay, you know, ICE has been here since 2003. Mm-hmm. You know, it's been involved with several presidencies from George Bush to Barack Obama and now to Donald Trump. We haven't really seen much in the news pertaining to ICE until just recently. You know, now so it's like when we're dealing with, you know, what's happening and we're seeing how the media has kind of really focused in on, you know, what to me feels like the tactics that are being used when it comes to how people are being detained. In your view, coming from a law enforcement perspective, you know, the first question that I really want to ask is, you know, like, man, you know, like we are living in a day and age where somebody posts a 10, 20-second clip and that forms or formulates the mindset that people have when they go into whatever the issue is. You know, we see many clippings of not just what's happened with ICE, but we see with law enforcement as a whole, right? You know, they take a 10-second clip and blow it up and magnify it. And a lot of people don't seem to really think about, okay, wait a minute. There's more than just a 10-second clip. Like, what happened before? Mm-hmm. What led to it? What happened after you know what I'm saying? So it's like, so from a law enforcement perspective, what details usually get left out when it comes to these viral clips that go out there that are 10, 20 seconds long that you feel like people need to at least understand when it comes to these altercations?
Law enforcement in general or ICE specifically?
Let's start with law enforcement in general.
Okay, cool. So what gets left out a lot is, why is law enforcement there in the first place? Nobody knows as to why law enforcement is there in the first place. They don't know as to what the call came out as. And having been a dispatcher and a deputy, I know how calls can get misinterpreted by the dispatcher and the deputy. Because the person calling the only information you have is from the person that's calling, correct? So you're not there physically until you get there. So the officer is going there with the information that they already have. And then they get there and for example, the 10-second clip is recorded. And that's what the public is seeing, is that 10-second clip, but they don't know, okay, what information was given before? Was that a suspect or was that a victim? What happened? Does that person have any prior charges? People just don't know those things unless they actually did the research. And if somebody had prior charges, a lot of the times they're not going to know, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if there's a database out there that says if somebody has been charged with something. Maybe there is, I'm not sure. But I know I was able to see it when I was in law enforcement. So yeah.
Okay, no, I mean, and I think context does matter, right? Because like you see these clippings, and you know, and what I've seen is the dialogue. Okay, well, this person had charges. Well, you know, some people on one side are saying, well, that doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't mean anything just but it's more because they're trying to justify their anger or their outrage on what's happening. Me personally, like, I definitely feel like context matters. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm a big believer that, if you take the text out of context, then all you're left with is con. Mm-hmm. And people are being conned every single viral video that comes out. Like, hey, like, the first thing I do is, if this video is only 10 seconds long, what else is not being shown? Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's like, it's not like the person who's recording, only recorded 10 seconds. Somebody got that video, whether they were a staged actor in wherever they were, or somebody, or some news agency got the whole video, but only recorded 15, 20 seconds, because we all know that news needs drama in order to create viewership. Like, if everything was boring and honky-dory, and nobody watching nothing, so there is a level of drama that is needed, which, man, to me that's a dangerous game that people are playing.
I wanna say that a lot of times speaking as a viewer, I only see what I see in the video. So I think, because sometimes, in my point of view, sometimes it's hard to argue a video, even if you don't know the context, because there it is. I mean, you can't fake it. He hit him. It's right there in the video. So even sometimes, when knowing the context or knowing what happened before or why were they there or blah, 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 it's important. I understand that too. But at the same time, it is what it is. You can't, I know that sometimes there is heavy editing, but sometimes there's raw footage. I understand that sometimes it's all in the angle, that sometimes the angle makes it worse. Oh my God, the angle. I don't know, just the angle makes, like, I know that sometimes they take a picture of me and I'm like, what angle did you use? It's horrible. So the angle does matter, and, the camera and all that stuff. But also, there's certain things that you cannot dispute. It's right there, black and white. Not black and white, but it's there. He hit him. He did what he did, or she did what she did. So that part, I understand that there's a lot of heavy editing that we can misunderstand. I know that. But there's also things that are clear. They're very clear, because this is footage that it's used on both sides, either to defend or to press charges. So it can either save you or incriminate you. So I understand that too. So my question to you is, how often do these videos match what actually happened, in your opinion? Once you see the full story, like once the context, the before and the after, and you see, like, in your opinion.
I truly don't think that they match less than 1%. Let's just say that.
Wow, because, really? Yeah,
because I've seen it that people, the general public, they're not trained like somebody in law enforcement is when they're trained to protect themselves and protect others. And we have certain tactics that we use to protect ourselves. Like, for example, one move that is frowned upon now is the knee on the back, because of what happened with George Floyd.
Yeah.
So that was actually something that I believe was taught back then, and they actually took it out of the academy because of that. So depending on when you were in the academy and depending on who taught you, there's different tactics. And the general public, they don't know these tactics, because you guys aren't fighting for your lives whenever you're working. And that's basically what being in law enforcement is, because the reality of the fact that there's more people that want to hurt you than actually like you.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
the videos, what they portray is what the person who's recording wants it to portray. A lot of the times they're not putting, like Elisa says, the whole context. They're not showing everything. And like you said, there's different angles. There could be a huddled bunch of people over one person while they're trying to arrest him, and do you think the person recording is going to actually get everything, or they're just going to get the angle where a whole bunch of officers are on top of one man and they're forcefully arresting him and using too much force? What's behind that story? Well,
Right.
me, what I think before I was in law enforcement, I used to think, oh no, yeah, why are they on top of that man? What are they doing?
Yeah.
But then after I got in law enforcement, I was like, that man must have not listened many times. He probably didn't put his hands behind his back. He probably started kicking. He probably tried to bite somebody. So yeah, I truly believe that there's not that many videos out there that actually accurately portrays the whole situation or even what's going on at that moment.
No, that's powerful what you said, because you know, whether you agree, with law enforcement, or whether you think ICE should be, you know, involved in what's going on in Minnesota and various other places.
Mm-hmm.
It's super important to understand that when you're out there on assignment and you're going to an area where you have to make an arrest or whatever the case is, we have now found out recently that there's an app called Signal. It's supposed to be encrypted messages and the whole nine. We find out, especially in Minnesota, that these people, these organized protesters, use this stuff to verify, hey, ICE is over here, ICE is over there. Let's go. So that's already high alert. Like I can only imagine doing my job and have to be on high alert just the moment I step out of my house,
Mm-hmm.
out of my hotel, or whatever it is that I'm doing, because of the task that I have at hand. When we are dealing with ICE, and we have seen through multiple videos, we have seen throughout the last several months, and when it comes to the tactics, when it comes to, hey, why are they arresting people? We have seen the narrative of that they're now arresting people who are American citizens. They're now, there's a whole lot that goes on to the narrative, and it's going back to the whole aspect of keeping things in context. Why is context so important for the average person when it comes to the news, when it comes to seeing things with ICE or law enforcement in general?
Well, I mean, as we can see what's happening over there in Minnesota, they're believing a certain narrative because of what the news is putting out there, that they're actually going out there on the roads and going against ICE because they're not getting the whole context. They're just getting what the news is saying. They're not understanding fully what ICE's mission in a lot of those arrests that they're trying to do. They're thinking that ICE is arresting somebody who's just an innocent person, that's it. A lot of them are, CSC charges, criminal sexual conduct charges, and they're not seeing that. And they're protecting these people, but since they're not getting the full context, they are going against ICE, they're going against law enforcement. That's why I truly believe that the full context is so important, because that dictates how they behave towards the two groups, ICE and general law enforcement, like regular law enforcement, I guess, because ICE is federal.
Yeah. In those situations, I have a question. In those situations where we're not seeing the full picture and the content, and we're not a preview of all the things that you explained, how do you handle the situations where the emotions are high, but the crowd is still not violent? I mean, how do you handle those emotions when so many things are going on and everything, and you got to make split seconds decisions?
So you mean emotions high, like people are still yelling at you and stuff like that?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I'll tell you, it's hard, but you got to do it. You are trained to do that, and I will tell you, that's when your partners have to also keep you accountable. If they see you kind of getting up, and they're seeing that is bothering you, it's agitating you, they're the ones that have to pull you back and be like, hey, I'll take care of this. Because we are human. Law enforcement, they are human. They are not robots. They also get their feelings hurt. There are also triggers that we all have because we're all human beings. We all have things that we've gone through in our lives. So yeah, our training teaches us how to deal with this kind of stuff. But of course, there's going to be a certain point that it might push the wrong button. And that's when we have to have our partners holding us accountable. That's why they trained us when I was still in law enforcement, that if you didn't hold your partner accountable, then you were going to get in trouble, because that's how, unfortunately, some cases of police brutality happen. And it's because the person's button got, pushed and they went too far.
And that's where I guess you need to know your partner, right? You need to know your partner well enough to understand, hey, I got your back, or hey, this is going to trigger you, or hey, let me cover you on this, or hey, let me pull you back. And that's when they've been working. What is it that, let me make a side note here. How do you develop that relationship with the partner that you're assigned?
Well, I mean, you're going to multiple calls with that person. I know I had specific beat partners that I go to the majority of my calls with, but I knew what would kind of bother them. So I would step in and then they would do it vice versa. Like for me, child deaths was something that was triggering for me.
Oh, wow.
They would step in for me and help me out a lot. Or after that call finished, they'd sit down and they talk to me. But yeah, you develop a relationship with them, whether you want to or not, because you're always with them for 12-hour shifts, and you're just gonna be friends with them. It's just, that's how it is, and you're gonna learn.
I think it's a little bit of trauma bonding and stuff. And so
yeah, kind of. Yeah, unfortunately,
because y'all are gonna be in some situations that is like very, very high emotion, very high risk, very, very. Oh my goodness, are you still friends with some of those partners?
Yeah, I do. The majority of them were men, so I don't really talk to them that much. But the female ones, I do still talk to them. I mean, it's just, you gotta think about it. These are the people that are gonna save your lives if something does happen. You have to trust them.
And that sometimes is the part that we forget, that we just see cops and we're just like, oh my God, I hate them. They're just gonna give me a ticket. Oh my God, the cops there, I'm just gonna arrest me. But also, if there's trouble, hopefully they're the ones that are gonna protect me too.
Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. So just a little break. For those in the comment section, like, how do you guys feel about ICE, or do you have any questions for Julie, who's a former sheriff deputy, who has plenty of knowledge and experience, and when it comes to, especially when it comes to altercations and conflicts and conflict resolutions. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments. Or if you have an opinion, one way, because we're about to get into the nitty gritty of dealing with ICE and whether it is that y'all agree with what's happening, because from what I've seen, it's one of those situations where ICE has been around since 2003. It has gone through several administrations. And my observation is that things didn't get blown up the way that it has until Donald Trump came into office. That's just my opinion. That's just how I view things. Maria gives me a hard time, but I'm about to say something that I do not vote.
Oh my God. That's it. No, that is okay. Me and Elise, this is what the dual part of our podcast. This is the dual part of our podcast right here. Because I am an advocate of vote. I mean, I'm a hardcore advocate. You got to vote. I don't want to hear your opinion if you don't vote. I don't want to hear what you have to say if you don't vote. And he's like, nah, I understand. I understand. I mean, we're still friends. Me and Elisa are still friends. But that is a little trigger for me. Like, what? What do you mean? You gotta vote. It doesn't matter. But he made a good argument one time. He made some real good arguments and points and things like that. But no, you got
Jenna says she's out.
She's out. No, Gina, tell him. I'm like, no, you gotta vote.
Oh.
You know how, especially because I'm a woman, you know how long it took us to be allowed to vote and then not vote. I mean, I don't care what they do. It's a matter of principle. There's countries that are not allowed to vote, that they have no voting. We need to vote because you got me started. You see, you got me started. Because
vote.
What happens is then when you don't vote, the majority doesn't win. It's the minority that wins. And when I mean the minority is because a lot of people think the same. No, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote. So the majority of people don't vote. So who decides what goes on in the country? The little bit of people, or the
people who pull the strings,
the small number of people that do actually go vote. So it's not. So sometimes there's elections that the majority doesn't win. The ones who vote, the minority that get together and they're organized and go vote. Ulises, I can't believe
there's two reasons.
No way.
Reason number one is here's my conspiracy theory. Right, this is a conspiracy theory.
Julie, you need to. Julie's gonna be the police officer involved in this domestic violence situation here.
Conspiracy theory number one is that does our vote really matter? No, it does not.
No, right? That's a lie. That is a lie.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If your vote, it might matter in the local level, but in the federal level, presidencies, nah. Now I've here when I was in the military, the year 2000, the year that George Bush Jr. won the election over Al Gore. Julie's a little too young to remember this because she was like, maybe
01, okay.
Yeah. Julie's like, okay, thank you.
So there was a big dilemma that went on with that election. So the race was super tight. I was stationed in overseas. I was in Kuwait at the time, and they were like, everybody put your absentee ballots in, blah, 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 blah. Come to find out that Bush ended up winning the election. He ended up winning the election, and part of it was due to the fact that the Supreme Court ruled against counting the absentee ballots because supposedly it came in past the due date. So our votes didn't matter. Our votes didn't count. We
that's
see
just one election. Just one election.
Sure.
Nobody says no.
We see throughout. We have seen in 2004, 2008, 2012, 16, when Donald Trump won the first election. Well, Donald Trump, how many people voted against Donald Trump and was like, oh, he stole the election, it's rigged. And then when Biden won in 2020, oh, he stole the election, it's rigged. How can 81 million people vote for somebody? More people voted for Biden than they voted for Obama, and he was the most popular president in the history of presidents, right? So that's conspiracy. That's conspiracy. But the real reason,
Julie and I are like, whoo, all right.
there's a lot more that goes into it. But the real reason,
got him fired, sir. You know, whoo, I can see the vein right here. I can see the vein.
Pull up the vein right here.
Let me take a moment to say hola. Let me take a moment to say hi to Rubén Colón. Saludos. Gracias por apoyarnos. Él está viendo desde Puerto Rico. Desde Puerto Rico está viendo este programa. Así que gracias, Rubén. Saludos por siempre. Gracias por siempre apoyarnos. Go ahead, sir.
But the real reason is because God gave me instructions back in 2008 um, that not to vote, to really just stick to what it is that he has to say, because what got the messages that God has given me, nobody can say, well, he said it's because he voted Republican or because he voted Democrat, and that's the short end of a long story. But God gave me instructions not to vote, because the messages that I'm giving and will be giving, nobody can say one way or the other. He voted for whatever the case is, but that's the real reason why I don't vote. Now,
I didn't get those instructions, so I'm going to vote.
and more power to y'all. If y'all want to vote and believe y'all votes matter,
yes, amen.
If it makes it feel better,
it's the principle of it all. It's the principle of it all.
Yeah, if it makes y'all feel better, whatever it takes. Here's some cookies. Here's some milk. What you want? Chocolate, strawberry? Which one you want? You know.
Well, go back to what we were saying. Back to what we were saying.
Yes, back to the subject at hand. We got
to the subject at hand.
We got a little sidetrack.
And Gina says, "Vote matters." She's with us.
Yeah, sure.
So I know that if you can talk a little bit, I just want to know if you can talk a little bit about the question I'm going to ask. If you know, if you don't, that's okay. But if you know a little bit, for example, I am Puerto Rican, so because I was born in Puerto Rico and Ulises as well, we were born in Puerto Rico. If we get arrested, we usually don't carry my birth certificate. I usually don't carry it. I just carry my social. I don't even carry my social, just my driver's license and maybe, my card. So how would I approach the officer to let him know, hey, I'm Puerto Rican. I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, so I don't need to be carrying an immigration card status. So what would be the approach? Because I know that in some cases, because I'm Hispanic, there's Hispanics that just because they're Hispanic, they've been arrested. So how would you suggest I handle that?
If ICE were to go up to you,
yeah,
I don't know ICE's protocol, but I've encountered people that don't have papers, and I've encountered people that do have papers. You can't get a valid driver's license if you don't have U.S. citizenship, or
okay,
some sort of because even if you are in the process, that doesn't mean that you are a citizen. You're just in the process to get it, but you can't have a driver's license without that.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, because you can have not even that. No, I lied. No, you can't.
Wow.
So in when it comes to to your knowledge, when it comes to encountering somebody who doesn't have papers, right? Mm-hmm. And you're there's speculation out there, there's stuff out there that's going out there saying, well, they're just arresting women and children just because they look Hispanic. What do you believe is like, does ICE or whoever, do they have the right to go out there and arrest anybody, or is there some type of warrant or something in place that has to happen first?
Okay, so are you referring to a specific video, or are you just in general? Because I've seen a video that there was outside of Home Depot that they said.
Let's go.
Yes, let's talk about the video. Yes, let's talk about the video.
So if that's ICE has the right to do that. If it's local law enforcement, sheriffs or police, they cannot do that. There's no reasonable suspicion that a local law enforcement has to go up to somebody and say, oh, well, you look Hispanic, I'm gonna go check your papers. No, but ICE can do that because that is their whole job. That is their reasonable suspicion. And then with that reasonable suspicion, that's when they can continue having a conversation and they can build off of that. And if it's leading towards where they could get probable cause, ICE agent does not need a judge to sign a warrant for them.
Oh, got it. Got it. Wow.
It's another authorized ICE agent that can do it. Yeah. So it's completely different.
Let's say you are, as a police officer, you're questioning somebody or something, and a nice agent comes, does he take over and you move aside? Does he have more jurisdiction, or how does that work? Like if there's this guy in the police office talking, and then a nice agent comes in and suspects something, he just jumps in the conversation or whatever. Does the officer pull back and let ICE has jurisdiction over them, or how does that work?
It
Or
depends.
that doesn't happen.
I've never had that happen. I've happened. So, I mean, I can speak on in a situation that I had to arrest somebody who was then taken by ICE. But that was because they had a warrant out for their arrest and ICE wanted them.
Oh.
But the only way that I could figure out if it was that person, because that person was an illegal immigrant and they did not have paperwork on them, I could only go by their picture, and I had to email ICE, and they had to email me a picture of them back so I can confirm that it was him. But ICE waited till I finished my investigation, and then they took over. Because ICE is federal. They have jurisdiction over everywhere in the U.S. I only have jurisdiction where I was working at, and that's it.
I see.
Okay.
I've never had a situation where they interrupt like that.
Gotcha. So we do have a question. And they're asking, with ICE showing them your driver's license, like you said, so that is your proof of citizenship.
Like I said, I've never worked for ICE, but that is documentation, and they can use that as documentation. We all have a database that we can check to see if somebody is an illegal immigrant, if they have paperwork or if they don't. And whenever I would check driver's license, you can show on the DMV if that person has a social or not, and if you have papers and you have a social. If you don't, it doesn't have a social at all. But that's all up to ICE. That's their protocol. I don't know what their protocol is.
Right.
What happens when like, I know that in your case you speak Spanish, but what happens in the case when they're questioning somebody and there's nobody there that speaks Spanish? Do they get an interpreter? Do they not? Or they just take them in until they figure what is a protocol in that in your experience?
For local law enforcement, correct?
Uh-huh.
So for me, if it was an officer or a deputy that did not speak Spanish, they would call me and I would interpret for them, because they don't like if family interprets, because you never know if they're actually telling them what you want them to tell them.
Yes.
They don't have anybody who speaks Spanish, then there is a hotline.
Oh, okay.
Translation,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So,
yeah, because that could be really a tricky, like, Mom, the cop says she's gonna arrest you, so blah 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 blah. Mi mamá dice que no fue. Yeah, it's gonna be Oh yeah.
I've had that happen. Happen because they look at me and they're like, "Oh no, she doesn't speak Spanish."
Yeah,
and then I let them talk, and then they talk, and I'm like, "That's not true."
Oh my god,
that's hilarious. That's hilarious. So one of the biggest things, that I do question for sure when it comes to detainment of illegals and things of that nature is, like my heart goes out really to, because God is very clear, in the scriptures that, hey, that there were plenty of, what quote unquote illegal immigrants that came into Israel, right? And God says to bring them in and to love on them and to treat them. Be kind to them,
be
and
kind to foreigners.
And so it's like, in when it comes to your side of the field, the law enforcement aspect, where, like for me, like I struggle with the morality versus the law. Mm-hmm. Right, like I get there are laws. Without laws is chaos, right? So we do need laws. I'm an ex-military. I believe in laws. I believe in following orders. I believe when the Bible says, when Paul instructs to obey the authorities of those that govern. At the same time, I do have that. Like, what is your stance on when it comes to morality, things versus the law, when it comes to, like, because I don't know, like we saw like the other day where it was a 5-year-old, the father was about to get arrested, took off,
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
the 5-year-old was there. They, according to ICE, they went to the mother's house to and supposedly their job was to get the child back, and they refused the child, out of fear that this was a setup, so it's like that. It's heartbreaking to see that, my morals is like, oh man, like what was it that serious, I'm not sure what the charges were that the father had going on at the time, but like the morals versus the law seems like it's such a thin line. It feels like, especially when it comes to what we're seeing as of late. So what is your stance when it comes to, because like as you mentioned earlier, you're a human. You have feelings, you have emotions. I know your heart has to hurt or break at some of the things that you've seen or have to deal with, but you're like, I don't want to, but this is my job. So what is your stance when it comes to that?
Well, my heart would break for the child because I would not be able to see myself abandoning my child. That child didn't choose to be put in that situation. The parents chose for that child to be put in that situation, and that's the sad truth. I do feel for a lot of the families, but I just have not seen, as of right now, what's been mainstream. I have not seen any case with families getting or individuals getting deported or taken by ICE that they have not done something horrible. Yeah, I feel for the victims. I really do. I feel for the victims. I've always said that I do believe that there should be some sort of reformation for the immigrants who have came here illegally, but they've been here for years and they've been working and they haven't done anything other than just come here illegally. I truly do believe that there should be something done for them to help them out. But with the people that are getting arrested or deported now, my heart has been out for the victims, not for them.
How do you feel? How do you feel the job of the media is? Or let me ask the question differently. How do you think that the media's has affected the true situation that we're dealing with? Has the media made it worse? Have they blown it out of proportion? Have they made it? Have they just emphasized and sensationalized just the human part of it without considering the whole picture? What is your thought? 'Cause I just wanna point out for those of you who just joining us that Julie is a mother, she has a child, she's married to a Mexican man, so that she's Cuban, if I can say that, and so it's not somebody that doesn't have, empathy to what everybody's going through or what is happening. This is somebody that she knows what's going on from both sides. So before you say that, I just want to make sure that people know that they'll just think that, oh, she don't know, but no, she's married to a Hispanic. She comes from cubana. Ella habla español. I was talking to her in Spanish. Ella habla mejor español que yo. So so somebody has a good perspective. So
Yeah, I mean,
the job of the media, or how is the media doing their job?
I truly believe that they are just flipping it to make it seem so negative, as though ICE is not doing something that is helpful for the country. I mean, the reality of the fact is that I don't want anybody here that is doing bad. I don't. You guys don't want anybody here that's doing bad, whether they're an American or not. If they came here illegally and they're here not contributing to the society that we're in, and they're just committing horrible acts like rape, kidnapping, murder, the media is not showing that. They're just showing, oh, father of 5 or father of 3 gets deported, separated for family. Well, what did that father do? Because a father can be a criminal as well. How many fathers that are here have not done horrible acts to their own children. And they are American citizens. It doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't matter what title you have. That does not mean that you cannot commit a crime. Right. And that's what the media is not showing. The media is keeping that, and they're trying to just have the sentimental side of the immigrant's family and the immigrant, and they want us to feel bad for them. I do not feel bad for anybody that commits an act like that. And maybe that's just the stuff that I've seen that's made me numb to that, kind of hard in my heart when it comes to that. But I struggle feeling bad for somebody that does acts like that. So yeah.
Do you think the platforms and the media are doing a terrible job in showing the complete picture?
100%, yeah. Yes. There's so much bias nowadays that you can't get the whole truth because it's not going to fit their narrative. They're going to do whatever they want to fit their narrative.
No, I definitely agree with that for sure. I think what bothers me is what I like to call selective outrage.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for sure. The death of Miss Good and the guy was a nurse is tragic. And there's protests. A lot of it is peaceful. But then you have the other side where you got, they're impeding in law enforcement's way. They're blocking roads. They're doing things that obviously is not beneficial, right? So it's like the selective outrage is, oh my gosh, look at what's going on here. But then they don't cover the news where an illegal immigrant murdered a nurse in cold blood. They don't cover the news of, a criminal from a Venezuelan gang or whatever the case is, just flat out just going into somebody's house, just shooting them in cold blood. Like there's two sides to it. So it's like, for me, what I don't like is the hypocrisy of the news on both sides of the aisle, right or left. It's like, if as Maria and you've been saying, like, if you're going to report the news, like, let's take it back to the days of old, where they just reported the news and that was it, right? There was no agenda behind it. Yeah, you may not like Trump. Yeah, you may not have like Obama. Yeah, you may have not like whoever is the president at this time. But, people not reporting the news, but reporting an agenda, all they're doing is contributing to the division of what's going on. And so for me, that is what is my biggest take. And Gianna says, depending on which media outlet you watch, Fox or CNN, and that is the absolute truth. It's and I said it before, and I'll continue to say it to my last breath. Politics is designed to pull on your emotions. They want you to be angry. They want you to be outraged about this, so they will report half truth, or they will report a straight out lie, and say, this is what's happened. It's kind of like I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump, right? But what I do know is that he's not a racist, because we've seen him throughout his whole life help the Black community. We've seen him help, we've seen him help the Hispanic community. Certain, and you take certain clippings. Oh, this is what's happening, so therefore he's a straight jerk. Is he a jerk? Probably, right? But is he a racist? No. But or Obama, Obama was a racist, towards white. Like, no, he wasn't. This is who he is, and y'all need to start reporting the full context of the story versus what you're catering to when it comes to the side that you're trying to appease, or the side that you want to really get your emotions triggered, to get the worst out of people. Really, at the end of the day, it's designed to get the worst out of people. So it's like on social media, like I'm looking at these friends that I have, and it's like F ICE, and if you support this, F you too. It's like, and then it's the other side, like just follow the law. Don't engage. Don't interfere with law enforcement, and you'll live. I've been in my living room all day, and I ain't been shot. So there's like, but the biggest thing is, and this is my question for you, Joe. Because you've been in law enforcement, you kind of seen how certain communities operate. There's a difference between, patrolling the suburb versus patrolling the hood, right? And it's all about the perception that people have of law enforcement in general. So, as law enforcement, how did you, or how have you handled the negative perception when it comes to people who do your kind of work?
It's been difficult because, I've been called racist multiple times. I pulled somebody over in the dark or at nighttime, and you pulled me over because I was black. I was like, I can't see your skin color with at nighttime while I'm driving behind you. I don't know. I'm just pulling you over because you committed a traffic, you did something wrong while you were driving. I don't care what skin color you are. You just have to kind of just go with it. I have difficulty with people that try to say that law enforcement, they're all trash or they're all horrible people. Because that's just not true. I just believe that people are taking like a couple of stories that they're seeing, and they're just having this opinion based on these short 10-second clips, and they're like, this is all of law enforcement. So I really wish that people that have that negative view on law enforcement, I really wish they just take a day and they do a ride along with an officer or a deputy, so that they see everything that we actually have to go through on the road. 100%. Yeah.
And that brings me to a final question for me is, what do you recommend we do? Like, people like me that have no training, that we don't know nothing, that we just go by what we see, and we're very emotional and stuff like that, and we just like, oh my God, everything. When we see clips like this, when we see a story presented by the media in such a manner, and sometimes we're not sure, or this, and like all these clips and all these stories and all this that were presented, what do you suggest that we do? Do we make an assumption by what we see, or what should be our attitude, or how do I find out the truth? That's really what I'm getting at.
Well, what I can only tell you what I do, because that's what I believe that most people should do when it comes to this. Because I've been in the side that I used to hate Trump too when I was in high school, and I hated all law enforcement, because I remember when they were doing the retens in North Carolina, and I'll be posting it everywhere. Don't go here. ICE is gonna get you. And then now I'm like, well, my point of view kind of switched. Put yourself in the shoes of both people, the officer and the suspect, if it is a suspect, because we don't know. And do your research. Like, just look it up. Well, because if you think about it, if somebody's attacking you and you're in law enforcement, what are you going to do? Are you just going to be there? Stop. Like, you're not, you know what I mean? And then take into consideration the law enforcement officer. How big is the person? How big is the person they're going against? Just look at everything. Don't just take that first clip and, oh, this is it. This is all that I have. There's YouTube that you can find other angles, like the Alex Preddy. I found a whole bunch of angles, and it helped me figure out what I believed after from being in law enforcement. Wow. And please remember that if somebody has a gun, law enforcement is not going to respond with pepper spray. They're not, because at the end of the day, like I said, they're human and they all have families and they're all trying to go home too. So,
no, it's good stuff, because it's like you're in a position where a split second can mean life or death. You 100%. Know, and and if you don't know what that looks like, please try harder. And again, this is coming from someone who's in the military, who understands, a decision could either save a life or end yours. So, as we bring this to a close, the one thing that I would love, that I definitely would love to say, is that, especially for us in the church, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And I think that's one of the things that we tend to forget when we see things that really cause us to be emotional, when we see things that are hurting us, when we see, injustice, or what we feel is injustice. By all means, feel whatever it is that you need to feel, for sure. But always intentionally even bring yourself to a place where it's like, okay, I'm not wrestling against flesh and blood. Mm-hmm. What's going on is not just a natural thing, but it's a spiritual thing. We have to be aware that if we are not praying, if we are not asking God for guidance, if we're not interceding on behalf of our leaders, which we are instructed to do, we are asked, you may not like whoever's in charge, but Lord Jesus, Lord, intervene, give them wisdom, because what we go through, their decision when it comes to policies can easily change the way that we live. When it comes to taxes, when it comes to, employment, when it comes to GDP growth, when it comes to, name it. When it comes to all of these things, it affects our day-to-day living. Gas goes up based on who's in charge, and gas goes down based on who, the other party who's in charge. We see it every 4 to 8 years. It just fluctuates and it just changes. But just remind yourself daily that, man, my battle is not against how I'm feeling. My battle is against the principalities and the spiritual weakness that are in high places. And always remind yourself, hey, regardless of how I feel, regardless of whatever, God is in full control. God is in control. All of these things, that's going to play out to the end of days. Y'all, it has to happen as God said it is supposed to happen. It has to happen. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It has to happen. So continue to stay prayed up. Continue to stay, encouraged. When we see things. But outside of that, Maria, any last words you have?
Yes. We try to show all sides of, that's probably what we call dual lens, because we try to show both sides or different sides of the issue. And in the comments, Gina mentioned that she had a bad experience with some police officers, and her and her husband felt, well, actually, let's read it. I will not say all law enforcement are racist, but my husband and I have been targeted because we are black by state patrol. It's difficult and not fair. We were not breaking any laws. And then she goes on in her other comment. And so we try to be fair. We're trying to hear our perspectives, and these things do happen. And unfortunately, we know that not all cops are mean, not all cops are bad, that there's good ones out there. So, but things like that happen. And so that's probably one of the reasons we're trying to make these podcasts and bring these conversations because, like I said, at the end of the night, we're not trying to convince anybody. We're not trying to change anybody's mind. We're just trying to have a conversation about this. And I want to thank you, for being brave, Julie, and coming here and just sharing your perspective and giving us this space, this time to listen to what you have to say from a different perspective. And unfortunately, what happened to Gina and what continues to happen to a lot of people is that they get treated, they get profiled, and we're aware that that happens. We know that that happens, and we would not like it for that to happen, but sometimes it's hard to understand when you've gone through it yourself, when you've been targeted and different things like that. So at the end of the day, like Ulisa says, let's look at this from different angles, that there's a spiritual warfare going on, that there's things that are happening in the world. And so that's really our purpose. Let's talk about what Julie talked about, how her point of view, I talked about my point of view, Ulises talked about his point of view. So it's a matter of trying to understand where we're from, and that we just need to be more patient and understand that there's always different sides to everything, that it's not clear cut. Things are not clear cut. Things are not just black and white all the time. We live more in the gray than we do the black and white. And that's what we have to learn how to navigate. That's what we have to learn how to have that mindset. Okay, what can we do to do things better? How can we make this better? How can we progress? Let's get the message out. Let's talk about this. Let's have these difficult conversations today. And I thank you, Julian and Elisa. This was a difficult conversation. And Gina, thank you for sharing your experience, because you're open and you're sharing what you're going through. So these are a good start. That's what I can say. So thank you for making the space for this conversation with us. We don't expect that everybody is going to agree. And we do have, discussions about this, and we reflect on what's being said. And thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Can I make one comment before I leave?
Yes, of course. Yes,
So,
of course.
I am very sad that has happened to Gina. I will never say that every single officer is good, because that would be a lie. There are some people out there that have a badge that they do not deserve it, and they do get a power trip when they have that badge, unfortunately. But it's very difficult to weed them out. You can't look at somebody and say, oh, they're going to be a bad cop, or oh, they're going to be a good cop, until they're actually a cop and they're on the road. So I'm very sorry that was your experience with law enforcement. Yeah, that's all I can say. But like I said, I do not believe that every single officer out there is good, because like I said, that would be a lie. That would be a lie.
Thank you for saying that.
It is very spiritual, because when Elisa's brought up the spiritual battles, I remember having to go home and pray, because I would feel that the person that I was interacting with, that was not them in that moment. And unfortunately, those are the people that we're dealing with. Wow. And while they're going through that, it almost looks like they're possessed sometimes. I've seen their eyes, and I've seen the words that they say and how they act. And their family's like, I'm sorry, this is not how they usually are. But it's truly spiritual. It really is.
No, that's definitely, again, thank you for coming on. It's, again, as Maria said, it's not an easy conversation to have, but it's a conversation that we should be having among people who don't agree, right? It's perfect. Again, the idea of unity is not to agree, but it's to come to a place of understanding. So for those who have experienced bad experiences when it comes to law enforcement, we sympathize with you. For those who had good experiences, we applaud you for sure. at the same time, especially for those of us who are believers, who serve the same God, who believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and and we died, buried and resurrected with him, the whole nine. We can agree to disagree on when it comes to the matters of politics, when it comes to matters of policies, when it comes to the matter of whether you're right wing or left wing, Democrat, Republican, Independent. But we can all agree to disagree. But the one thing that we can agree is that God is coming back. What we can agree is that Jesus is in full control. What we can agree is that, we can operate in the fullness of joy, fullness of love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, the whole fruit of the Spirit. We can operate in those things in the midst of the chaos. And that's what's going to separate us from the world. You can act like the world all you want, but then don't be surprised when they look at you like you crazy because you're acting just like them. I can feel a certain way, but we cannot let emotions ride what the next words that come out of our mouth. If it's not God, don't say it. If it's not God, don't say it. You may feel it, but let that be filtered through the Holy Spirit. So with that being said, we love you guys. Thank y'all so much for joining us for the Dual Lens podcast.
Woo-hoo. Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much,
Julie. Thank you so much for those who commented. Thank y'all so much for participating. This was an important conversation. Next week we might get back into relationships. We might get back into tacos and bread pudding. We don't know, right?
Oh my God.
but join us next Tuesday night, 8 Central, 7 Mountain Time, right here, same channel, same bat channel. We love you guys. We appreciate y'all so much. Another big shout out to Julie for hanging out with us for the night. We love y'all, and we'll see y'all next week.